we started talking about why you're in the region, but you recently did, and we've got to give our friends in Saudi Arabia a plug. We're all trying to figure out what's going on. No one really knows. Public investment fund, all of this, that, and the other. Everyone who's listening probably has their own opinion, same as they did about the politics at the start. But you were in Saudi Arabia racing in a race. Take us through sort of how you got there, what the race was, what was attractive about it, and how that experience went down.
Yeah, some secondarily governmental organization, I guess, is my understanding, threw a bunch of money for a prize money event out in AlUla, and the area looked beautiful, looked amazing. Yeah. It looked like mixed feelings again about like, okay, they're building a tourist industry out here and they haven't even excavated what's out there. Like we might be ruining and polluting, or just, not even through malice, but just through ignorance.
Yeah,
right?
Mainly.
We might not be totally welcome in this area by the land itself quite yet, without knowing what's there. But yeah, so they put up this money, and the second I found out about it, I have basically no love for me in the obstacle course racing community, because like I'll come in there, I'll have huge goals.
Yeah.
I'll crush a race or two. And then because it's not financially viable unless you're a good old boy, unless you've already been in there for a decade.
Yeah.
Then I'll get out of it, and I'll go back and I'll run on the trails, and I'll run on the roads, and I'll get a little prize money here, and I'll do some biohacky stuff, and I'll like, make sure my electric bill gets paid for another 6 months. And then I'll see an event, I'll say, I'd like to get back into that. And then I'll do a crash course and train for whatever it was, 7 weeks before. It was like 12 weeks this time. Yeah. And go from marathoning, where I'm not allowed to pick up anything heavier than a grocery bag, and try to minimize that. You can appreciate that cycling. Yeah. And then suddenly to, okay, let's get as burly as I can, and, maybe pack on 10 pounds and just get durable to where I could, be picked up and dropped a bunch of times and not break. And so, yeah, I'm always looking for an excuse to kind of get back into the obstacle course racing world, since I haven't managed to like really transition over.
Right.
And so they supported a bunch of people, unfortunately not me, and gave them all, I'm not exactly sure how much help they got, but they got enough help to get out here and race. And so when those people started posting on social media, like, there's prize money, it's this, I was like, oh, okay. So guaranteed I'll get, like, I think I'm going to leave with like $3,500, which that's like, I don't know, 14 months of disposable income for me, probably. Yeah. It's like above my base. Like, I live like a monk, man. That's great. And so that'll cover all my odds and ends for the trip and what have you. So I found out this event was going on. I found out it was 8 hours. It's a 10K loop. It's just over 20 obstacles per loop, as many loops as you can in 8 hours. And that all fits me really, really well. So I said, all right, this is the perfect event for me to just like make some waves, and also kind of hopefully establish something out here. That this area seems to be, even before I got out here, seemed to be speaking to me. I really love the desert. Yeah. And I have some draw to this area in the world, something about the rock, or the angle of the sun in the sky or something. There's something cool, energetic about it out here. And so when I saw that, okay, this is my excuse to get out there, I kind of, anymore these days, I kind of wait for stuff to fall into my lap, because I always have great things just falling into my lap. And so I'd like to just be receptive to that. And it seemed like this is the kind of thing you don't say no to. So I reached out to a few sponsors and booked some stuff, and secured a local host out here in Dubai, which is delivered exponentially more than I would have thought. Way more than a couch, on every level. And yeah, so I booked everything, and it seemed a little bold, especially with the, like, it's not flying into a major airport. It's not like a big city marathon where you just fly into Chicago and get a room, and then the elite liaison picks you up, and that's that. It's like you're getting out there and you're in tents out in the middle of the desert. So I knew it was going to be a little bit of an adventure, but I'm not needy. I can roll with the punches. Yeah. So here we are.
You said AlUla, like, should we be there? Shouldn't we be there? It's an amazing place with an insane amount of history when you actually look into it. should we be there, mate? Because I think about that a lot, and like some of the events that have been on there from, you know, I think one of the earliest events that I saw hosted there was a big polo competition. They've had trail races there. A few weeks ago, they had the AlUla Tour cycling there. And they're trying to do a lot of different things. You'd have seen there's quite a lot of tourism there, some interestingly set up sort of hotels. But it's exactly what you said. It's you fly into a shed, a little bit bigger than a shed.
The airport's really nice. It's nicer than my airport back home.
It's very nice, but it's not big.
Yeah. One terminal.
It's one terminal. It's quite small. And it's probably been welcoming people on an international scale only for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be hard to have, like, I think I paid 120 some bucks US for the visa to get in. I would love to think that some of that could go to an ever widening circle of like, okay, what do we not want to damage?
Yeah.
Like what needs some red tape for people? I think you could do some initiative like that. That seems like it would be easy to do. Obviously that's not my place to say or not, but I think there's 2 things on that. The pragmatic answer that comes to my mind is they invited us, and I went there and I was as respectful as I know how to be. And it was, I believe that territories don't give, territories give back, right? If you give something, if you give your soul to something, to a chunk of land, it'll give you something back.
Nice.
And that's bigger than even the people that own that land or that have lived in that land. Now, the people that have lived in that land, though, they've been giving a lot more than you have, and their ancestors have too. So they have some stuff figured out, even if they don't consciously know that it took them lifetimes to figure out. So you will never figure it out. You don't have lifetimes, you have one. So there's a certain level of humbleness that you have to go into those scenarios with. But I think my kind of hippie woo-woo corollary to all that would be, I asked it. I mean, I asked the mountains and I asked the sand if I can be there. You know, I had this vivid image going into the race of this like moment that I would have. And it wasn't anything like I thought it was going to be, but the moment was identical. I mean, it was a flashbulb memory of something that hadn't happened yet. And I was going through this tunnel, and it's like, it was like Prince of Persia or Indiana Jones, or like the minimal amount of exposure I have to like loose sand and red rock and all this stuff in the US. Yeah. And I just had this moment where the wind was just howling, just ripping, and I'm crawling under this thing. They call it trench warfare, where you're like in this underground tunnel under a like tarped up thing, and you're all stooped in there. Thankfully I'm short, so I'm not that stooped. And I'm stooped in, my hands are just sinking into the sand. And instead of thinking like, oh God, this is so hard and it's like pulling me down and it's weighted, I was just like a kid just playing. And I was like it's so nice. It's like soft and forgiving, and like planting my feet with so much intentionality of just like feeling the sand under my body. And I felt like it was welcoming. And not even that, I know it was welcoming. It's like, so I could be wrong. I could be delusional. I could be crazy, but I know what I saw and what I felt. And it was like a warm hug, man. It was like,
that's cool. It
was just this deep, intimate moment that we had. And it was 3 seconds or 30 seconds. And it was everything. And so cool. There's something to, I think it's, what book is that? Stranger in a Strange Land. Is that what it is with grokking? You know something intuitively by touching it. Okay. Basically. And so you grok this thing.
Right.
And there's something about, we have our stories and we have our interpretations, and they're not wrong. They're just someone else's story. They're grappling with the same ideas that, make good people stutter or repick their words in a good podcast, right? Like they're struggling with ideas in real time. This story isn't fixed, even though we inherited it. And so there's something to that, touching it and just being receptive to what is and trying to figure out what actually is there without your own bullshit story overlaid over it, or worse, interpreting what you're receiving. Yeah. But I've been places that feel prickly, that feel unwelcoming, that feel like they're not for me. And I've been to places, and AlUla was one of those places that feels like the ground itself feels like we're vibrating at the same frequency or something.
Very cool.